Everyone, welcome to Tech Tuesday. My name is Tom Levine. I'm Cornerstone's tech guru, and today we're going to be going over part 2 of our Outlook series. Thanks again for attending, and without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Just a few things to mention before we get into the depths of what we're covering. First, housekeeping. If you have a question, please don't hesitate to type it in the question box. I will go ahead and answer them when I have a moment, if I believe it's relevant to what we're covering. Otherwise, I will answer any and all questions at the end of the presentation. Additionally, you can connect with me directly using the number available up above. And I am very sorry for that. We're having a little bit of construction out here, so if you hear a little bit of background noise, my apologies. But either way, you can also reach out to me at the email address presented over there on the screen. Additionally, don't forget to sign up for Autopilot. Autopilot is our compensation-based client referral program that offers all of our services to all of your clients. If, let's say, someone wants to sign up for LTD insurance, but you only write major medical, that's where we come in. So if your client is interested in a product that you don't necessarily sell, please feel free to kick them over to us, and we'll be happy to help. Also, they'll never fall off the scope of your radar. To sign up for that program, it's just at www.crnstone.com/whatweoffer/autopilot. Additionally, we also do bonuses for referred agents. If you know another agent who might also benefit from some of our services, then please feel free to recommend them to us. We'll pay you $250 when they place their first paid application, and it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. You just submit your referral through Cornerstone's Refer an Agent page. We'll track and monitor your referral over the next 6 months, and then once your referral submits business within that 6-month period, you earn $250. We do actually have a question here saying they can't hear me on the computer speakers. If someone would like to just comment in the questions or the chat and just make sure that everyone can hear me. I'm using a different headset today, so that might be the cause. Is anyone else having these issues? Okay, thank you. One moment. Yeah, the construction is pretty rough. I'm very sorry. But there's not much I can do, unfortunately. Either way, we're going to get started by going into Outlook. Today, there are a few different things I wanted to cover, mainly search folders and how to use them, how to back up your contacts in case you switch computers, different rules, which in my opinion is the most useful part of PowerPoint, along with email forwarding, automatic replies, and different calendar settings. We're going to go ahead and actually get started by covering some of this section below. And give me one moment to circle it. Yeah, right down here. This section we sort of started to cover at the last Tech Tuesday, but I didn't really get into it, and that was just because of time. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with all of these different tabs. And the first thing you should know is that each one stands for a different thing. This little calendar looking thing right next to the mail is the shortcut to our calendar settings. This is sort of how I like to plan things out and keep track of what I have going on. I like it because it gives you a full view of your calendar. You can change it to display weekly, work week, or even just the full month view, which is what I tend to keep up. Additionally, you can open different group calendars in here. And that way you gain access to anyone throughout your organization's calendar as well. In order to do this, you would just, save something you have here as a group calendar, create a group calendar to open, or you could go to Folder, Open Calendar from Address Book, and then you can open up any calendar through your organization that people have enabled to share. Additionally, you can create new events just by double-clicking on a day. For instance, I clicked on the Tuesday, the 9th, which is already passed, but you can even set up events retroactively. I could set the subject as test, and then I can even input a location. Now, your organization might have a few optional locations, but the drop down here that you have is just any area that you've already entered in. For instance, I have meeting location, Cornerstone, and presentation desk on this version of Outlook because these are all things I've previously typed into the location box. If I type, for instance, webinar computer, then I have that set there as well. I can even add a description of my meeting. So something like Tech Tuesday webinar. And then I hit save and close. And now we have that meeting set up. And now it's reminding me, because I created this in the past, that it's 2 weeks overdue. I could hit dismiss here, and that will remove it from my notifications. But the event still stays. So you still have the full history of all the different events that you've created. Additionally, you can set up recurring events, which is what I tend to do for these Tech Tuesdays. In order to do that, you just click on the recurrence under the event tab. And then you can choose how often you'd like things to recur. You can choose daily, weekly, and choose what days, monthly, for instance, just the second Tuesday of every single month, or even every 2 months if you wanted. And then yearly. That way you can set up reminders if you run reports yearly that, oh, now's the time of year to run that. What I tend to do is I do bi-weekly presentations on Tuesdays. So I set it up every 2 weeks on Tuesday. It has no end date, but I could choose to end this recurring event after so many occurrences, or I could give it a solid date with which to end this recurring meeting. Let's go ahead and tell it to end after 3 occurrences. And I hit OK. Save, that little save icon up here in the corner, and then save and close. And as you can see, now on the 23rd, I have an event as well for this webinar. And then if I go into April, on the 6th right here, I have another webinar, and then it's stopped after that. But that's generally how you would interact with the calendar setting. The other option is contacts. Now, I have 2 sample contacts entered here, Joe Schmo and Joe Schmo, just as a sample. But this is where I go to look through all of my contacts. This isn't necessarily all of your open contact books, but this is just what you've saved locally to this computer. I can hit new contact right up here to create a new one. And I could enter whatever name I want, whatever company information I want, including whatever job title said person has. For example here, we'll call this person sample person at 123 company. And then we'll fill in their job title as a manager. I can choose to set their email to whatever I prefer. For instance, sample user at CRN, which is not an actual email address, but it will work. And we'll still be able to add them as a contact even if the email address is invalid. If I hit save and close then, it'll create our sample person contact. And if I ever want to see them more directly and edit them, I just come back to this contacts tab, double click, and I should be able to see them. If I click on general here, as you can see, I have all their information that I entered. Now, there's also this little checkbox here, and what this is a to-do list. This to-do list is pretty useful, in my opinion, because what it does is it allows you to sort of organize what different responses you're trying to get to. For instance, if I go back to my mailbox and then flag this test, what I did there was I just clicked on the flag. I could alternatively right-click and then set it for follow-up like tomorrow or even next week, or get into the custom reminders, which we covered in our last presentation. Then if I go back to this flag tab here, I have a full list of my to-do lists and things to prioritize. I can change those settings by right-clicking and hitting custom. And then I can choose the different follow-up dates, when I'd like reminders, or I can clear the flag. If I hit clear flag, then it actually removes all of the flagged items that I had selected. That generally covers all of these navigation options down here, but if you do want to get more specific with it, all you have to do is click on the little 3 dots over here, navigation options, and then you can just physically click how you want these arranged. We could also get into folders and shortcuts as well, but there's no real need. I'm going to hit reset, okay, and then go back to our mail tab for the rest of this presentation. I am, however, going to flag that example user option right here. And if I go into my drafts, I'm going to right-click, and let's go ahead and categorize this as blue for the next part, which is going to be search folders. Search folders are incredibly useful, and you typically do not have them enabled. This is because in Outlook, you already have this search bar up here. It's useful, but not the best. And the reason is it's not great at searching for bodied text. For example, if I type example up here, it'll search through all of my inbox and my outbox, and it'll find anything with example in the from box or the to box. Right up here, you can see I have from 3 weeks ago the example user test email that I sent, as well as another test email that I sent, and a sample deposit notification that I sent out as well as a test. This was from when we were setting up different things as well. But either way, this search box is pretty useful, and it'll let you do keywords, but it won't always be the best for getting directly to what you're trying to find. For instance, let's say I'm trying to find every task that I have flagged. One thing that I could do is I could go back to the view pane and enable the tasks in my to-do bar. But as we can see, that kind of pushes this viewing window small, and it makes it difficult for me to see everything else. Additionally, if I have my calendar set up here as well, it's the same thing. Let's go ahead and turn both those off. To me, the easier way to search would then be a search folder. And there are 2 different ways to do it. If this is the first time that you're setting up a search folder, then what you're going to do is you will go to the folder view here and hit New Search Folder. This will open up the search folder wizard. Then you can choose whatever criteria you want the search folder to look for. For example, we have unread mail, we have mail flagged for follow-up, mail either unread or flagged for follow-up, or things that I've marked as important. I could also do different options of mail from people and lists. So I can choose mail from and to a specific user. For example, my boss. If I wanted to create a separate folder just for her, then I could create one using mail to and from specific people. Hit OK. Then I can set criteria. For example, if I hit choose, I can scroll through all of this and just type example and hit OK. This will search for any mail from example user in the example email account that I'm currently in. And if I hit OK, now it brings up anything from any sample user. Once you have created your first search folder though, this little search folder bar should be visible. And in order to make a new folder from this, all you have to do is right-click on it and hit New Search Folder. This one we're going to create for any flagged for follow-up email. I hit OK. And now it gives me a view of any email that I have flagged for follow-up. In my opinion, this is probably the easiest way to search through your inbox. You can even use this search bar to search through your search folder and get to more specific information. And Vince, I promise I will get to your question at the end. Thank you. That's a good one. Now that we have search folders, the next thing I was going to cover was how to back up contacts, which is pretty useful if you're swapping computers. Now, my organization has a lot of different email addresses set up. This could be for anyone inside our company, and that information is stored on our server. However, for smaller companies, that's often not how things are set up. A lot of times people will enter all of their contact information into Outlook, and then when they switch computers, because they never backed it up to the cloud or used their Microsoft Sync, you lose all of your contacts, and that can be stressful and can set you back quite a bit. That being said, it's very easy to export your contacts. All you have to do is go to this File tab, which is pretty much how you get to any of the advanced options in Outlook. If I go from here to open and export, I can then import and export files, which is how you would export all of your current data. All you have to do is go through these wizard options. Import from another file or program is how you would move information back into Outlook. However, in order to create a new file, you're going to hit export to a file. Then we're going to pick comma-separated values or Outlook data file PST. PST is just an Outlook file format. There's no need to get freaked out about it. But if you're trying to move your contacts to something like Yahoo Mail or something like that, you're going to want to choose a comma-separated value option. I'm going to choose this as well right now and hit next. After that, it'll show you all of the different options that you can click on. We have suggested contacts. We can export entire folders of email data. But in order to back up contacts, you scroll all the way to the top, click on contacts. Well, I just double clicked, but you could also click once and hit next. Choose your contacts. And then you can hit browse here to create your backup file. I'm going to save this to the desktop, and I'm going to call this file exported backup. And then I'm going to hit OK. Then I'll hit next. And then you can custom map fields. Custom mapping fields just sort of tells Excel what sort of header you want on what information. For example, this from box over here says information from the Microsoft Office program Outlook in the contacts, and then it's going to export the name, business address, home address, or other addresses along with all of these other fields. Then it's going to give me a map of what's going to match up to what header. That's what's over here on our right, mainly being our fields list here and our map from section here. This tells me, and I'm going to go ahead and clear this mark, that our title field is going to be mapped from title in Outlook. Our last name is going to be mapped from last name in Outlook, and so on and so forth. What I can do is I could choose to clear my maps right here by clicking on this button, but what that'll do is it will ruin any sort of matched up information that is already exporting. I can also change my default map by clicking on that. For instance, now that I've hit clear map, nothing is available here. Let's say I wanted to add something to this map. I would simply click on what I want to map, hit next, 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 and just get a general view for what fields are mapping where. If I hit default map, that's normally all you'll need. So I'm going to hit OK and finish. And now Outlook will load that I exported all of those contacts. And we have that file right here. If I double click to open it, then as you can see, it exported all of the contacts that I had listed. We have Joe Schmo, the other Joe Schmo, and then our sample person for 123 Company. If I scroll to the right, as you can see, I've also got all of my email information in here as well. It also gives you this little notice up here that says some features might be lost if you save this workbook in the CSV format. What that means is that what this actually is, all of these values are separated by commas. It's kind of technical and there's no need to get into the real depths of it, but now that we have this file, if I ever needed to re-import it, I would go back to Outlook, go to File, open and export, import export, and then I would choose to import a file from another program, which is this option that's natively highlighted. If I hit next, then I have to choose what type of file I'm going to import. We export it as a CSV, so I need to import a CSV. Then I can choose what file to import. It automatically selects the last file you exported, but if you wanted to choose a different one, you can hit Browse and then go through your File Explorer to find the file you're looking for. Select it and hit OK. And I'm going to choose to replace duplicates with items imported. There are 3 different options here. You could choose to not to import duplicate items. You could choose to allow duplicates to be created, or you could replace duplicates with items imported, which is what I'm going to do here. Then I'll hit Next, and then I select a destination folder. Because I'm importing contacts, I'm going to import over contacts, and then I just hit Finish, and it does the import. If I click on my people here, I have my contacts fully listed. And if I wanted to, let's say, just delete these, I've deleted multiples. And then let's try the import again, just to show that it actually is importing. So I'm going to go back to Open and Import from another file or program, CSV files. I'm going to replace duplicates with items imported. I'm going to import them into the calendar. And then I'm going to hit Finish. I might have selected the wrong option. My apologies. Let's do that one more time. So I'm going to import from another file or program, a CSV file, allow duplicates to be created, import my contacts, and then Finish. And now we have everything imported. Another thing that's pretty useful about Outlook that I think everyone should use are rules. Now, rules are a little more advanced. If you're familiar with any sort of coding, it'll be very familiar to you. But basically what rules do is they automatically allow you to sort of sort any incoming mail or outgoing mail, however you need, automatically. Now, this is useful if you're not really happy with search folders, or maybe it's not really working the way you want. This way, you can write a little bit of a custom rule to help things stick out to you. The way you do that is by going into the File section here, and then clicking on Manage Rules and Alerts. Now, there are a few rules in here that I have set up. I have rules that apply to this computer only. I have a few of them actually. And then I have this example user client only rule. And the reason this isn't working is because the folder that I had it forwarding to no longer exists. I'm going to go ahead and delete a few here. And then I'm going to go ahead and create a sample rule. For instance, this rule right here. The rule itself that you want to look at is available from this drop down here. You just click on which rule you want to view. And then the rule itself is actually this text down here called the rule description. As you can see, this one says on messages that I send on this computer only, I'm going to defer delivery by 1 minute. And what that rule does, if I hit apply and hit OK, is if I hit new email to example user, and I'm going to just call this one sample test and hit send. As you can see, I now have an email in my outbox. That would be this one right here. The reason it went here instead of just going straight to my sent items is because I have this rule right here that says I want to delay delivery by 1 minute. Now, on my personal computer, I have this set for 3, and that's because I tend to forget to attach things. When I hit send on an email, if it's going to anyone outside of our company, I have it set up so that my email gets delayed by 3 minutes. So if I think back and go, oh, maybe I didn't attach that document that I needed to, I can always double click, reopen the email, and just double check. For example, if I go into my outbox right now, and double click on this, then I can see I didn't have any attachments. And what I could do is I could just choose to attach that Excel file I created, and now I can send this. And it automatically sent because it reached the end of that minute-long timer. In order to set this up yourself, however, you would go to the Manage Rules and Alerts section and hit New Rule. That new rule button is right up here. It says New Rule. I'm going to go ahead and circle it. It's this area right up here. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new rule, and it starts by giving you a bunch of different prompts. It can move messages from a specific person to a specific folder. You can move messages with specific words in the subject to a folder. You could move messages sent to a public group to a folder. This is what we do here in commissions. And so if we get any emails to commissions@crnstone.com, then those automatically forward to both Leslie and I's commission email address inbox. I can also choose to flag messages from someone to follow up automatically. For instance, if I got a message from my boss, then I could set it up to automatically flag her emails for follow-up. And that way I can just know instantly, oh, hey, I need to look at this. That's the rule that we're going to actually do as a sample. But I could also choose different RSS feeds if you use any of them, or I could do things a little bit differently too. For instance, I could start a blank rule on messages that I receive, or apply rules to messages that I send, just by using these two blank formats. What I tend to do with my rules is just delay delivery. That's just what I tend to do with them. I don't really have a whole lot of other rules in place, but it can be extremely useful to flag, specific emails from clients or flag emails from people who aren't in your address book, just so you know, oh, maybe this is a new client. I should probably follow up with them. And that's why we're going to do this flag option. Now, once I select whatever template I want, the first thing I need to do is look at step 2. As you can see, there are some blue items here in the description, and I'm going to highlight them right here. There is one there and one here. If I click on People or Public Group, I can choose specific people to flag things that I receive from. For example, if I receive an email from example, so anything I receive from example user, then I can flag the message for follow up today, tomorrow, next week, this week, no due date, or I can just mark it as complete. I'm going to choose today, and I'm going to flag it as read or read. Actually, probably review is better. I'm going to hit OK. Then I'm going to hit next. And that brings me to step 1. You can customize any rule by just hitting next, 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 and then choosing specific things. For instance, in this rule, so far, I apply this rule after a message arrives from example user, and it flags the message for review today. If I wanted to get more specific about this, I can. For instance, if I choose the with specific words in the subject, then I get another line of text here underneath example user. Add with specific words test. And it searches for specify words or phrases to search for in the subject test. I hit add, and then I hit OK. And then I'll hit finish. It'll give me this notice, which says this rule will only run when you check your email in Outlook. If Outlook isn't running, this rule won't work for email you check online from another device. And that's true of pretty much any rule that you set. What that means is this rule is applied exclusively to this computer. And you know that because it says client only. Now I'm going to uncheck the defer delivery by 1 minute, and I'm going to go ahead and test this rule. I'm going to hit apply, and that's how you will always apply rules. And then I'm going to hit OK. Now, if I check my inbox, as you can see, we did get that test email that I just sent, and I'm going to send another one. This time I'm going to put junk in the subject. And according to our rule, this should not flag, and it should send automatically. As you can see, our outbox is blank. It is listed here in our sent items. And if I check my inbox, we got an email with junk in the subject. Now, I believe the subject that we had was test, and I can double check that just by going to the Manage Rules and Alerts and looking for the keyword. So I was correct, it was test. I'm going to call this test email with capitals, and I'm going to send it to myself. And I'll hit send. As we can see, it's sent out, but it hasn't actually come in yet. There we go. And as you can see, it's automatically flagged right over here. This is how I tend to stay on top of different emails that I receive, and I think it's pretty useful. You can do a lot more than just that with rules, though. Like I said, I typically defer my delivery by 1 minute, and I can turn that on with this checkbox over here. If I wanted to turn off the rule I just set, I can just unclick it in that checkbox and hit apply. Additionally, if I ever want to edit a rule, I can just click on it here and then click on any of the blue areas to automatically edit it. Alternatively, I can go to Change Rule, Edit Rule Settings, and then I get the full rules wizard again. So that covers rules. the last two things I really wanted to cover was how to do automatic replies, as well as how to set up email forwarding. And that's pretty straightforward as well. Email forwarding, all I need to do is create a new rule. Let's say I automatically want to forward emails from example user to my personal email address. All I need to do is I can apply a rule on messages I receive from specific people. Let's say example user. Then I can forward it to people or public groups and choose my actual email address, which is tlevine@sierraandstone.com. And then I can hit apply. Okay. And now I have a rule that automatically forwards emails. The other thing I could do if I wanted to forward something is I can right-click on an email and hit forward to automatically forward it. Or I can double-click on an email to open it and then hit forward in the message menu. From here, I can just type any email address, such as tlevine@sierraandstone, and then I can just type whatever I'd like. The other thing that I didn't really get to covering, though, was BCC. BCC is blind carbon copy, and what that does is it sends an email to someone who will receive the email, but the recipient won't know that they were CC'd. For example, if I wanted to BCC example user on this and send an email to myself, I'll hit send on this, close out, and after a minute, it'll forward, and I'll show you what I mean. Additionally, you can set up auto replies, and that's what I'll cover while we're waiting for that to send. Automatic replies are useful if you're out of office. That tends to be the default reason to set these up. All you have to do is go to File, Automatic Replies. Now, by default, Outlook won't send these, but you can choose to send automatic replies by clicking Send Automatic Replies. And then you're going to want to select a time frame typically for those to send. I'm very good at forgetting to turn these off, so I always set it for a specific date range. For example, let's say from 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. today, I wanted to say I will be out of the office. Inside my organization is typically not the default. Outside my organization is. And what that does is if you don't have an organization setting set up in Outlook, you'll want to just set up everything as outside my organization. However, if you do have organization settings turned on, and most of you probably do, then you can choose inside my organization and outside my organization and have two separate automatic replies. Now, these replies will not normally include your signature, and you can also add rules to these replies. For instance, when a message arrives that meets the following conditions, so an email from example user, my apologies, or when a message is sent to someone specifically with a specific subject or whatever I'd prefer, I can basically set up any of these settings, I guess I'd say, automatically. This is how I tend to reply if I'm looking to be out of the office for like a day or two. I'll go into here. I won't normally mess with the advanced rule settings, but I will just say something like, I will be out of the office. And then normally you'd want to include some other information here. Things like when you're expected to return, why you're gone, maybe a contact email for anyone who's reaching out to you directly. For instance, my go-to tends to be, I'll be out of the office from X to Y due to Z. If you have, or if your issue is urgent, please reach out to commissions at Cornerstone. And that's more than fine. Typically, you'll want to add a little more than this, just maybe an intro line, say, sorry, I couldn't get to your email, or things like that. Once you have it set up and you've got your automatic reply selected to send exclusively during specific time ranges you've set with the dropdown, just hit OK, and it'll automatically turn on automatic replies. Now, if I send a new email, for example, this one we just received, it automatically replied with the email that I just made. And that's because it just received this test email that we issued. For example, see how my name's listed up here, this Tom Levine? This was the email that we sent to Tom Levine, BCCing example user. And if I open up this email again, the automatic reply is here. And it only has this Tom Levine listed as the email recipient. If I had publicly CC'd myself, it would appear below. But that generally covers all of the advanced uses of Outlook you will likely need. I'm happy to answer any questions at this time as well, and it looks like we already have one. Vince asks how to rearrange the default phone number listing order in Outlook. Seems that Microsoft makes it very difficult to do that. So I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Vince, that you're referring to your contact lists. So this would be rearranging the default phone number listing order in Outlook. If I open up this sample person that we just created, I think what you're getting to are these phone number listings here. It will normally default to business. However, you can enter these however you'd prefer. Using this drop down here, you can pretty much just select primary on whatever phone number you decide to make the default, and it'll automatically move your calls or set your default number to that. I believe that's what you were getting at, but I'm not 100% sure. So it's not necessarily that it's difficult, it's just a little bit not user-friendly. And once again, all I did was opened up a contact, clicked on the drop-down, and then selected primary as the telephone number. But good question. And just in case we don't have any other questions, I'm going to go ahead and put my contact information up on the screen here. I'm going to swap the display setting right here. So like I said, please feel free to reach out to me directly. My phone number is displayed on the screen along with my email address. And if you'd like to double check some of our previous webinars, I know that I did Outlook Part 1 the other day. All you got to do is go to our website. If I go to www.crnstone.com, and I can access all of our recordings. All I need to do is go to our Resource Center, Webinar Series, and then I can access the Tech Tuesday recordings right here. I can also access our individual corner, group corner, and build your brand webinars as well. As you can see, we've got Mastering Outlook, taking your Outlook email to the next level, and all of the other webinars that I've done so far. Thank you very much.